My parents let my sister live in my apartment rent-free and called it fair, so I sold the place and moved away without leaving a forwarding address. I'm a 28-year-old guy, and buying my own apartment was the proudest moment of my life. I still remember standing in the empty living room the day I got the keys. It wasn't anything fancy, just a two-bedroom walk-up on the edge of the city, with creaky floors and a kitchen that hadn't been updated since the early 2000s, but it was mine. I'd worked 2 jobs through college, skipped nights out, lived off instant noodles and secondhand clothes. I did everything right. No safety net. No help from anyone. Just hustle, exhaustion, and stubbornness. My parents didn't clap when I told them I'd bought it. My dad just grunted something about getting lucky with the market, and my mom asked if I'd even checked for mold. That was always their waste, mother. The good amplify the bad. But when my sister Megan so much as passed a class, they threw a dinner party. Megan, the golden child. Megan, with her art school whims and failed Etsy businesses and anxiety days. Megan, who moved back in 3 times after dramatic breakups and never once paid rent. Every time she fell, our parents made the world softer for her to land me. I was expected to make it without ever stumbling, so this apartment, it wasn't just property. It was peace. It was the first space I'd ever walked into without needing to ask permission. I furnished it piece by piece. A second-hand couch here, a chipped coffee table there. It was quiet, clean, and finally free of everyone's noise. I thought I'd found a corner of the world where I could breathe, but that quiet wouldn't last. Not once Megan showed up crying on my doorstep, and not once our parents made their first harmless request. It started with a phone call from my mom. She's just devastated, honey. Can't you help your sister? Just for a little while? Her voice had that syrupy guilt-drip tone I'd known since childhood. Megan had just broken up with her boyfriend, another guy she moved in with way too fast, and now she had nowhere to go. I hesitated. Not because I didn't care, but because I knew the pattern. Still, I caved. I always caved. Megan showed up with 2 overstuffed suitcases, a plant she forgot to water, and a tearful smile like we were best friends. I promise it's just for a few weeks, she said, settling into my second bedroom like she owned it. Just until I figure things out. At first, I tried to make it work. I adjusted. I didn't say anything when her laundry sat unfolded for days, or when she used my shampoo without asking, or when her friends started coming over unannounced. She's going through a hard time, I reminded myself. Be patient. But weeks passed. Then a month, then 2. No job applications. No rent offers. No deadlines. Just her lounging on the couch, scrolling her phone, watching shows on my streaming accounts, and eating my groceries. The worst part? She acted like she was doing me a favor by being low maintenance. I brought it up once, carefully. Hey, any updates on your job search? Or, like, moving plans? She blinked, then laughed. Wow, okay, didn't know you were keeping score. That was the moment I felt the shift. The unspoken truth hit me in the gut. She had no plans to leave, and the moment I brought it up to my parents, they made it clear who they really thought the intruder was. When I finally called my parents to talk about it, I expected at the very least a little understanding. Instead, my mom sighed dramatically. It's like I'd just announced I was evicting a stray cat. She's your sister, she said, dragging out the word like a moral sentence. You have a roof over your head? She doesn't. What kind of brother are you if you can't show a little compassion? I tried to explain calmly. Mom, it's been almost 3 months. She's not even trying to find a job. I'm covering everything: utilities, groceries, gas, and she just laughs when I ask her to help out. My dad chimed in then, his voice sharp and cold. When you lived under our roof, we didn't charge you rent? I almost laughed. Yeah, because I moved out at 18 and never looked back. I worked my way through college while Megan was still having sleepovers in high school. But they didn't want logic. They wanted guilt. Stop being selfish, my mom said. You're supposed to take care of each other. You have so much more than she does. That line cut deep. So much more. as if what I had wasn't hard-earned, as if I hadn't clawed my way here without a single ounce of help from them. When I hung up, my stomach twisted with that old familiar ache, the same one I'd had growing up when they'd take her side, no matter what she did. I tried to shake it off, but the resentment lingered. That weekend, Megan had friends over again. They filled my living room with noise and laughter while I hid in my own bedroom, headphones on, pretending I didn't exist. Somewhere between her giggles and the clinking of their wine glasses, I realized something chilling. This wasn't my home anymore. It was hers. And worse. Everyone but me seemed perfectly okay with that. The first time Megan used my car without asking, I was in the shower. I came out and noticed my keys missing from the hook. I called her, panic bubbling up. She answered with a chipper, "Oh, I just took it to grab some sushi with Katie. Hope that's okay." Like borrowing someone's car was as casual as grabbing a hair tie. No apology. No recognition that she'd crossed a line. When I told her later that it wasn't okay, she rolled her eyes. "You never use it on weekends anyway." I should have put my foot down harder, but I didn't. I didn't want to be that guy, the uptight jerk, the bitter older brother. So I let it slide. Again, that small act opened a floodgate. My laptop. She used it to FaceTime her friends, leaving it dead and sticky with God knows. My clothes? Gone from the laundry, mixed in with hers. She even once had the audacity to ask for my Netflix password on the account I paid for. She'd already used daily. But the last straw came when I got a notification on my credit card. A $124 charge from some boutique skincare site I'd never heard of. I called her into the living room, holding up the email. She didn't even blink. "Oh, that was me. I figured you wouldn't mind dime broke right now, and I really needed that serum. I'll pay you back." Eventually, stared at her, speechless. The entitlement in her voice wasn't just casual, it was ingrained. Like she genuinely believed my things existed for her convenience. I told her we needed to have a serious talk about boundaries. She just scoffed and said, "God, you're so dramatic." Then walked into my kitchen and poured herself wine from my bottle. That night, I sat on my bed, door shut, heart pounding. This wasn't a sibling staying over. This was a squatter with my parents cheering her on. A week later, I finally snapped. I came home from work to find Megan sprawled across the couch, painting her nails on a towel she'd stolen from my bathroom. She had takeout containers on the coffee table, candle burning dangerously close to a pile of magazines, and the TV blasting some trashy reality show. She looked up at me and smiled like I was just a roommate passing through. I stood there, still wearing my work shoes, and said, "You need to move out. 30 days. I'm serious this time." Her smile faltered. "Wait, what? You've been here for months? You don't pay rent. You don't clean. You don't work. This isn't a visit anymore, it's a takeover. I need my space back, Megan." She blinked, then tilted her head like I'd just insulted her cat. "You're kicking me out? Seriously?" "I'm asking you to be an adult," I said, trying to keep my voice calm. "Find a job. Get your own place, or go back to mom and dad. But you can't keep living here like this." She didn't respond. She just got up, stormed into the guest room, and slammed the door so hard a frame fell off the wall. Later that night, my phone rang. It was Mom. "What the hell is wrong with you?" she shouted before I could say hello. She called me sobbing. "She has nowhere to go." "She has options," I said. "Your house, for one. She's not stable enough for that right now. You have your own place. How is it such a big deal to share for a few more months?" Then came the kicker. "If you're so bothered, maybe we'll help with the mortgage. But Megan stays." That's only fair. Fair. That word echoed in my head like poison, because in our family, fair only ever meant benefiting Megan. And I realized then this wasn't just a boundary issue. This was a war, so I was never meant to win. A few days after the mortgage bribe, a letter arrived with Megan's name on it, official, sealed, government-looking. I didn't think much of it until the second one came. Then a third. Jury duty, insurance, a voter registration update. My stomach twisted. I confronted her that evening while she was spreading avocado on toast like she owned the kitchen. Why are you getting official mail here now? She looked up, blinked, then shrugged. Oh, I updated my address a while ago. I mean, I live here, right? My mouth went dry. You don't live here. You're staying here. Temporarily. She raised an eyebrow. It's been for months. Legally, I think this counts as residency. My chest tightened. Wait, you actually registered this place as your permanent address? She nodded, totally unbothered. Well, yeah. It made stuff easier. I had to update my license, my bank, my apps. You know, adult stuff. I stared at her, stunned, silent. Because this wasn't just entitled behavior anymore. This was legal territory. She was setting down roots, making this place hers. And worst of all, she'd never asked. I went into my room, shut the door, and Googled how to remove someone who lives in your home rent-free. What I found sent my head spinning: tenant rights, squatter protections, eviction notices. She hadn't paid a dime, and yet if I wasn't careful, she could claim tenancy rights. I texted my parents in a panic. Explaining what she'd done, my dad replied, "She's just trying to stabilize her life. Why are you making this harder for her?" And that's when it hit me. They didn't think she was crossing the line in their eyes. She was finally growing up by leeching off the very person they'd ignored for years. The apartment I fought so hard for was no longer mine in spirit, and if I didn't act soon, it wouldn't be mine in name either. I wasn't even trying to eavesdrop. It just happened. Megan was on the phone in the kitchen, completely unaware I was in the hallway with my headphones unplugged. Her voice was low, almost whispery, but I caught every word. "Honestly, I think he'll move out eventually," she said, laughing softly. "He's so stressed all the time. He hates confrontation. I wouldn't be surprised if he just breaks and leaves me the place." Silence. Then another laugh. "I mean, he's still acting like he owns it, but he's barely here half the time. And the way Mom and Dad defend me, he knows he can't win." My hand tightened around the doorframe. She was talking to one of her friends or worse. Our mother about how she expected to outlast me in my own home. Like this was a strategy. Like my exhaustion, my avoidance, my tolerance were signals of surrender. I stepped into the kitchen before I even realized what I was doing. She jumped, phone clutched in her hand like a kid caught stealing. "Who were you talking to?" I asked, my voice low. She smirked. "Relax. Just venting." "What? You think I'm going to leave you this place?" She didn't answer. Just raised her eyebrows like I was being ridiculous. Like the idea of me holding on to something for myself was absurd. Later that night, I called my parents again. I laid it all out. How she was planning to stay permanently. How she had no intention of moving. How she'd even said I'd give her the apartment. My mom's response: "Well, did you tell her she wasn't welcome long-term?" Maybe she misunderstood. My jaw clenched. "You think she misunderstood squatting in my home?" "I just think," she said carefully, "you're blowing this out of proportion. She needs stability." I hung up without another word because now I knew this wasn't just Megan being selfish. This was a family-sanctioned invasion. It was a Thursday night. I had stayed late at work, grabbing dinner on the way home, half dreading the energy drain of walking through the front door again. I stood outside my apartment building, fumbling with my keys only, to realize the main lock felt different. Tighter. Almost unfamiliar. I pushed the key in. It didn't turn. Confused, I tried again. Nothing. I pulled out my phone and buzzed the intercom. No answer. Again, still nothing. My gut tightened. I called Megan. "Hey," she answered, casual. Like I wasn't locked out of my own home. Did you change the locks?" Pause. Then, "Oh yeah, sorry, I forgot to mention. The deadbolt felt loose, and I was worried about safety, so I had a locksmith come by. You can just get a copy of the new key from the kitchen drawer when you're back?" "I am back, Megan. I'm outside." "Right now." Another pause. "Well, I'm kind of in the middle of something with my friends. Can you come back later?" I stood there, frozen, gripping a takeout bag and a briefcase, staring at the door to my own apartment like a stranger. I didn't speak, didn't yell, just hung up. That night, I slept in my car. No pillows. No blanket. Just the hum of the city outside and the cold realization that I wasn't welcome in the space I'd bled for. When the sun came up and the sidewalks filled with strangers starting their day, I sat in the driver's seat numb. How did I get here? How did I become the outsider in my own life? I had always thought the worst thing in the world was being alone, but that night, I learned something worse: being erased. And I knew without a shadow of doubt, if I didn't take everything back, I'd lose it all, permanently. After that night in the car, something in me shut off. Not broke shifted. I stopped arguing. I stopped trying to reason with her, or my parents, or anyone. I said good morning. I smiled at her friends. I even bought extra groceries. Megan thought she'd won. She called me chill now. Said she was glad we worked through the tension. What she didn't know was that I had already met with a real estate agent that morning. Turns out, the market had spiked. My modest little apartment, the one she claimed as her own, was now worth nearly 30% more than what I'd paid. I didn't even hesitate. I booked the appraisal, then reached out to a private buyer my agent knew who could close fast, no drama, no waiting. While Megan lounged on the couch scrolling TikTok, I signed preliminary papers in a quiet office downtown. While she was laughing on FaceTime in my living room, I was transferring ownership in silence. It felt surreal, like orchestrating a heist. Only the treasure was my piece. I told no one. Not my coworkers. Not friends. Not even my cousin, who I trusted with everything. I needed zero leaks. I started moving my important stuff: passport, birth certificate, hard drives, personal journals into a storage unit. Bit by bit. Unnotated. And every time Megan left dishes in the sink or blasted music while I was on Zoom calls, I just smiled. Because I knew something she didn't. In 2 weeks, her kingdom would be gone. Not a warning. Not a heads up. Not even a sticky note on the fridge. I was done explaining myself too. People who never once asked what I needed, I wasn't. Going to argue anymore? I was going to. Vanish and take the ground out from under her as I went, and for the first time in months, I actually slept through the night. The final paperwork cleared on a Monday morning by noon. I had the new owner's confirmation and a scheduled move-in date. The apartment officially belonged to someone else. And Megan? She was still in her pajamas, drinking oat milk lattes on my couch like the world was hers to scroll through. I didn't say a word to her. Instead, I handed everything off to my agent and let legal take care of the rest. That evening, while she was out at a friend's birthday dinner, the courier slid the envelope under the door. Notice to vacate. 14. Premises sold. New ownership in effect. No screaming. No door slamming. Just a simple piece of paper waiting for her like a ghost in the hallway. I wasn't home when she found it, but I wish. I could have seen her face. My phone lit up later, with calls and texts first from her, then from my mother. I didn't answer. I let them pile up like unread newsletters I'd never subscribed to in the first place. Eventually, I listened to one voicemail. My mom's voice trembling with rage. How dare you blindside your sister like this? After everything she's been through? You just sold your apartment? Like it meant nothing? What kind of son? What kind of brother does that? And in that moment, I realized something perfectly, painfully clear. It had never been my apartment in their eyes. Not really. It was just a placeholder, a resource, a fallback for Megan. And when I took it away, I wasn't disrupting her comfort. I was betraying the family script. The one where I sacrifice and she soars. I turned off my phone. Then I walked into my new place across the city and furnished. Quiet. And beautifully mine. I didn't tell a single soul where I was, and I had no intention of ever looking back. The silence was addictive. No slamming doors. No wine-stained glasses left on counters. No half-shouted FaceTime calls echoing down the hall. Just quiet. My new apartment wasn't big, and it wasn't fancy. It still smelled like primer and dust. but every inch of it was untouched. Mine. I bought a new phone number, got a P.O. box across town, canceled my streaming subscriptions, and opened fresh accounts. The goal wasn't to hide from the world, it was to shed the part of it that never saw me as a person, and it worked. No more calls. No more guilt trips. No more texts that started with, "I know she messed up," but the first few days were strange. I kept checking over my shoulder, waiting for some consequence to arrive. Like someone was going to knock on the door and drag me back into that twisted family dynamic. But no one came. I ran into an old coworker at a cafe who asked if I'd heard about the drama. I said no, and sipped my coffee like I didn't already know what he was referring to. Apparently, Megan had been kicked out by the new owner within the legal time frame. She had nowhere to go. Moved back in with our parents, who were now furious and blaming each other for letting this happen. I even heard she tried to post about it on social media, spinning herself as the victim of sudden homelessness. But without me there to play the villain, no one really cared. There was no one left to argue with. No brother to dump it all on. No golden child pedestal to hide behind, and me. I was free. For the first time in my life, I could breathe without, bracing for the next wave of entitlement. I could fall asleep without, listening for footsteps outside my door. They didn't know where I was, and that was the point. It's been 6 months now. Sometimes, I still get a twinge of guilt like a phantom limb. It creeps in during quiet mornings when I'm making coffee in my own kitchen, alone, unbothered. There's a voice, my mother's mostly, that whispers, "You went too far. She's your sister." But then I remember the locked door, the ignored boundaries, the gaslighting, the way they all made me feel like a villain for simply wanting my own life. And just like that, the guilt fades. I never responded to the emails. Not the one where my dad passive-aggressively reminded me how lucky I was to own property so young. Not the one where Megan finally broke the silence with 3 words, "Are you happy?" Honestly, yeah, I am. I've started therapy. That's been new. The first few sessions were tough. I kept trying to explain everything away, like I was testifying instead of healing. But eventually, the therapist said something that stuck. "You were never the problem. You were just the one who left." That sentence unraveled something in me I didn't even know was still knotted. I wasn't cold. I wasn't cruel. I had just finally chosen myself after a lifetime of being told to choose them. I don't hate. Again, I don't even hate my parents. I just don't trust them. And that's okay. Last week, I bought a new couch. Nothing secondhand. Nothing chipped. Just something soft and firm in mine. I sat on it, looked out the window, and felt something I hadn't felt in years. Peace, not revenge. Not triumph, just freedom. And if they ever do track me down one day, if they ever knock on my door asking for something, there won't be an answer, because I finally built a home where I don't have to shrink to fit, and no one gets to take that from me again.